Hajashig, welcome to Indigital Insights. Monique Minach Indigenous, Kittikinik, Anishinaabeg, and Dojiba. My name is Monique Minach, and I'm a member of the Algonquins of Barrier Lake. And today we're going to be discussing some really interesting issues around arts and arts protocols and other ways that, other challenges that Indigenous artists face. And we'll be talking with Liz Barron. Liz is an art-based cultural worker who's living in Winnipeg, and but she's not to age anybody because I think we're both about the same. Has been working in the art sector, in the Indigenous art sector. Well, you're a trailblazer. You've been doing this work for a long time, and you come. So much of it that we see in the sector is because of you, because of what you've done and the work.
Thank you.
But I wanted to start with protocols. There's some really interesting work in protocols that's being done right now. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I would love to. So CARFAC National, which is April Britsky, is their director and the team there. They had reached out a couple of years ago now to look at how are we engaging with Indigenous artists, not just as curators from institutions or artist-run centers, but also how are the artists engaging with those curators. One of the big topics that came up is if I'm an artist that's based here in Winnipeg, so, we have Cree, Ojibwe, some Dene, of course, we're the homeland of the Métis Nation. My artwork, if I'm being influenced by my community, should be based on those styles, those designs. So I shouldn't be programming or curating an artist, say that's of Cree descent, that's doing Haida work. So those questions that we, discovered through all of this research for curators, typically non-Indigenous curators within institutions, is to be able to ask those questions of the artist. Do you have permission? How did you acquire this design? Who gave it to you? Whose family owns it? Because within the community, we know some designs, some colors, some applications are owned by the community and not necessarily the individual artist. So we did a whole series of workshops and conversations around what the protocol is for, curators to be able to have those conversations with artists, and also for artists to be able to respond. And I think that's the bigger question is, as an Indigenous artist, how are you responding to those questions? Do you know where those images came from that you are adopting or are influenced by, that you're putting in your contemporary work? And in specific, we're talking about the contemporary art practices. And I don't want to, just paint everybody with one brush and say all of our Indigenous artists only use, imagery from their community. We have a variety of artists, but in specific, this was really looking at that issue. Also, for the protocols, one of the bigger topics that came up was about identity and how, when you are engaging with the artist or even a guest curator, that you can respectfully engage in those conversations about identity. And not everybody has a First Nations status card. Not everybody has membership to, here in Manitoba, we have the Manitoba Métis Federation. Saskatchewan has their own Métis Federation. And we have cards, gives us some rights. But again, for those that are in that discovery phase, in that didn't know phase, or, looking at the pretendians, how we're able to engage in those really serious conversations regarding identity. So the protocols are indigenousprotocols.art is where you can find the workshops, the research. We had a series of podcasts and looking at what those questions are. And not that we are attacking people or doing lateral violence, but it's common within the community to for us to say, where are you from? Who's your family? What are your family names? And to be able to know that information, I think, is really important, especially now. And it is an odd thing um, that we seem to be the only ones that say where we're from. Like Irish artists don't say that. Scottish Irish, they don't go, oh, I'm from, if Irish, I'm from Dublin, I'm from this territory, these are my family names. But it's now this extra conversation that we have with each other. Yeah.
I think that's a conversation that, we've always had. We're built on relationships, and often, I mean, I find myself asking and looking for connections. Like maybe we're cousins. You know,
Yeah.
we're cousins. Oh, man, you're my cousin. Never said.
And that happens, or you discover those networks. Jennifer Smith, who's a curator, independent curator, Tara Hogue, also a curator. Our families all come from St. Francis Xavier and St. Charles. Our family goes back generations within those territories, as well on the First Nation side, outside of St. Francis Xavier, and what our script says. And to be that, I've known them for years, but had not known where they were from. And now with this new, form of introduction, it's like, but that's my community. Like how did you get there? Like, we've been there for generations. Yeah. So it's always interesting to find out, where people are from and who their family is.
Exactly. And I don't know of any Indigenous person who isn't happy to, oh, yeah, I'm from, and my mom was, my dad was, it's always something that we're very happy to discuss. And I know there are, like when the Indigenous Screen Office was putting together their verification policy, or some people are now, and I like this term better, some people are now saying affirmation policy, citizenship policy, which I think I like that attitude much better. And the ISO said, it's not us to do police. It's not up us. It's not up to us to decide who's Indigenous, but our funds are for Indigenous people. So we have to make sure people meet the criteria in order to receive the funds.
Absolutely. Yes. I do like that affirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's a better than that whole verification.
exactly.
Yes.
And there's so
Hmm.
many ways people are disconnected from community. The misogyny of the Indian Act, the
Hmm.
the 60 scoop or the millennial scoop, which is even more now than I think I've heard that there's more kids in the millennial scoop than there were in residential schools.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, part of I, for me, the concept around identity is I grew up and lived in this life. And those new knowledge people coming in, the ones that have just either found out, within a generation that they had some identity and or were part of the scoop, but I don't think that they should be applying for those positions yet until they've done their research, till they've really participated. I don't think if you go back and find out that you're Indigenous like a week ago, that you should now be ticking off those boxes for job opportunities or grants. I strongly believe you need to find your community and your family and whatever your family makeup is going to be, and to really engage in that learning process.
Absolutely. That was something Jesse Wente said, that, we fully support people's journey in finding out and researching and determining their Indigenous identity. He said, but it's not up to us to fund it.
Yes.
there's a good border, boundary for you. It's true. It's great. We're happy to help people become reconnected to community. But the
Mm-hmm.
expense of taking up space for people who have had lived experience. And I've been told so many times that it's not about who you claim to be, it's about who claims you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
And it is such a larger discussion. And I think there needs to be, a gathering of sorts with, all of us with a NASO, a National Arts Service Organization, to be able to come together to have these conversations, not necessarily to develop policy. Like I don't feel it's our responsibility to develop those policies, but I do feel it's our responsibility to provide the information of somebody seeking that knowledge rather than us having to police, because
and
that's somebody else's job to do.
that's
Yeah.
up to the community. And, so much of this identity affirmation needs to be distinction based. It needs,
Hmm.
what they do in my community, in my Algonquin community at Barrier Lake, may not be what they do in Kitigon-Zibi, in another Algonquin community. I think it really needs to be up to the communities to decide. And maybe some of them will form uh, some process through their tribal councils, which is
Hmm.
terrific. But it's, each community is in such a different place. So
Yeah.
expect a blanket to cover that's not going to, no, that can't be how it works.
No.
That's not how, no, we've had enough of blankets.
Yeah. We don't want any more. Yeah.
No, thank you. we can we can figure that out ourselves. Thanks.
But I think that also really moves well into that idea of policy and the expectations that we have, I think, of our organizations, our arts organizations, not just the service organizations, but the Indigenous artist run centers. To have to put that work on them, I think is unfair. And I don't know if people realize when those calls come in, because we get calls all the time about those questions of identity. Do you have a policy? Can you share the policy? Have you written a policy? Where are you within your policy? And to, you know, share that work, um, it's more labor for us. And
Mm-hmm.
it's that idea of the unpaid labor that is expected of us within those Indigenous organizations. It's like I couldn't phone up Shaw Cable and go, hey, come and do this for me for free, because they wouldn't do it. Like, but that expectation is on us to produce all of this work and share it and provide it and be that guide for everybody. And I think, coming back to the Indigenous protocols, there's some really clean, easy steps for people to follow in looking at creating your own internal policy on your engagement with Indigenous curators and artists, and how to find somebody within your community and what you should be paying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I've had funders. I can't believe I've had funders say, "Well, why would you pay an elder more than an artist?" Or why does the elder have to stay the night before and the night after the event?
Yeah.
Because they're elderly?
Yeah.
Oh, like we're asking a lot of these old people.
Well, and one of the things, and I really hope that this is something I can do before I retire, is have um, our elders be CRA exempt so that they don't have to pay income tax on any elder fees that they receive for their contributions to the community, like for our whole entire art community. And also look at how we can best protect them. So, a story is we, like at the ICCA, the Indigenous Curatorial Collective, we pay well for our elders' fee. And in particular, this one elder, they received $2,000 for the work that they did for us for a conference. However, that $2,000 put them over on their income tax return for benefits for subsidized rent. It's what? So they were declined for that entire year for subsidized rent. It's like, if I had known this, I would have tried to do something else to be able to support them for the work that they do. So it was one of the conversations that we had when we brought all of the Indigenous NASOs together. How do we look at do no harm? Do no harm includes making sure our elders are paid cash. They have lots of blankets, so they don't need another one. But they do need money. Like everybody needs money for their experience, their skills, and their commitment that they've made to us to show up and be present. So I'm hoping, I'm reaching out to some members of parliament. I'm got a draft together to send to some legal experts in the area on how we can now approach the income tax, CRA, to have these funds be non-taxable.
Exactly. And no T4As.
Right? Yeah. No T4As.
I mean, I've heard stories of elders being, because with disability, there's always such a big thing about if they bring in any other money and they can get kicked off disability.
Yes.
And that, like, it's insane that idea of do no harm. We need that so much.
Mm-hmm.
I got into a big kerfuffle. I had a new auditor, and they're like, well, you have to give T4As to these people, and I'm like, no, I don't. It's up to them. I don't have to issue a T4A. And we got into like to the point where I left the company and I found a different auditor because they
Mm-hmm.
refused. Well, I talked to the CRA and this and this and this. And I'm not doing it. You can't make me. Bye now.
Yeah. Thank you. I know. And I think it's really important. And I think it's also important for the non Indigenous organizations to know that this happens to our elders. Because it's not just me paying the elder for that year, they have other opportunities that come up, they have other presentations that they do. Like they're in demand because of their historical knowledge. And we need to be able to respect that and not put them in harm's way.
No, in our communities, we would take care of all of their needs.
Yes.
So this, I had one. They wanted me to come out and do an open and close. They wanted to talk and la la la. And they said, but we don't have any budget. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but these are the honorariums that I generally have. And they said, oh well, couldn't we do this in a more creative way? And I said, well, considering that communities would generally take care of all of the needs of the elders, the honorarium is a creative way.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it went back. Oh, well, I'll ask my manager, and went back and forth. And I finally said, listen, I'm really sorry, but I've been booked up in the meantime, so I won't be able to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, honestly, you know, see it
Yeah.
happen to other elders, like, and it's just, it's devastating. Like, oh man.
Hmm. Well, and I think that's, I think we're aware of it within our own communities, but I don't think they're so aware of it at the universities or the institutions or the museums
Mhm.
that impact has within our elders. So, I mean, it's right now, it's still in that early phase. I'm still working on it. And, hopefully we'll get a team together of accountants and lawyers because that's that's who has to do that's who has to do it, that they know the language.
Did
Yeah.
did Canada Council? I mean, I know we brought it up with Canada Council for years
Mhm.
and years and years. I'm not sure if any changes were made there. I know with some grants, like the artist only pays income tax on the subsistence fee, so not on the whole grant, which is good. But any honorariums, like I don't know if they did anything about that for the elders.
Not that I'm aware
Mm.
of. Yeah, so and it was something that, when we were together looking at developing a small scale grant process with all the municipal funders across the country for that meeting, and, developed what, 11 different steps to how you can support artists, community elders, through that whole grant process with a small scale grant. And that we're looking at grants like at $3,000. But that's where like the conversation was continued at that event. And then when the Indigenous Curatorial Collective brought the other NASOs together, we continued that conversation. And then we tried to have the Discord channel. And the Discord channel wasn't very successful with us. And I don't know if it's because it was too new of like a platform to have discussion and documents shared. And so, we need to relook at how we are communicating together as the Indigenous NASOs, the National Arts Service Organizations, and in specific the Indigenous ones, because there's only a few of us. Like, really, there's only a few of us considering everybody else. So I think, and again, the work goes to us. Like, this has now become part of our workload that we have to take on. And again, we need to do that work for the community and how much time it takes without
It
funding, without, yeah, yeah,
needs to be capacity building for organizations, first of all, to be able to ensure that everybody has the skills we need, and then ongoing programming to be able to create these policies or
hmm.
whatever is necessary.
And I think along with that is we also need to find out where the next leaders are, the ones that are, happy to do administration and finance and budgets and manage staff and write those grants and keep the organizations moving forward. And not just with the art service organizations, with our other, Indigenous operating clients within Canada Council,
Mhm.
we have some challenges in finding leaders for those particular roles. I know that there's a theater group that has been desperately trying to hire a general manager. And so they've had non-Indigenous general managers for the last 4 years. But again, like, you're not going to university to study, arts administration so you can manage a theater. But what skills can we bring in or find somebody that has, some basic skill sets that we can now nurture and grow into the position? But they also need to be paid and we need to be paid. So our our grants are pretty restrictive to just being able to do the work we said we were going to do, rather than look at how are we doing our next leaders. Who's doing that? We need them to come in. Like I would like to retire, and I probably have 2 years left. And then what? Who's gonna take this position?
You think you have 2 years left.
Yeah, I know, right? Please.
Yeah.
I think like 2 years with an organization, and then I would do probably independent work. But that whole idea of 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and travel, and all of the work that has to happen within all of those things, who's doing it? It's interesting because where was I? We were having these conversations, a group of arts administrators, and it was at the governance of compassion. The governance of compassion looks at how we bring people into an organization and care for them within the organization. And this means you're not working overtime. You have the tools you need to do your job. We compensate you more than fairly, more than a living wage, and the expectations within you from this particular organization. If you're having, a death in the family, Indigenous people celebrate death differently. And sometimes we're on the land for 5 days. Like, it's not your regular government says you get 3 days when your parent passes. Like, who came up with that? I Because my father passed away recently, and it was, it took more than 5 days to come out of that space, because we were also doing home hospice, which I it was great that he was at home, but the emotional labor in that process was exhausting. Like, every day was exhausting. And now you want me to come back to work after 3 days? Like, no, we haven't even had all of our family over. We haven't even had tea. We haven't even had those conversations. We haven't gone through all the photographs, that whole process. And then that process of just taking your shoes off and being barefoot in the grass and being for a moment, just to be for a moment. So, in the compassion of care of compassion, those are the things that we were looking at, and how we bring those people in. And the governance, sorry, it's called the governance of compassion, and looking at, more flexibility in work, because not everybody is in an office these days. And how then do we support that worker not being in an office? Sure, I think if you want to work and your best time is from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m., then that's when you work. But just let us know. Let us know that you're not going to reply to an email at 6 in the morning. Like, I'm an early bird. By 11 o'clock, I've been working since 6:30. By 11 o'clock, I need breakfast, like, and some people are just starting their work when I'm almost finished my day. And I think that those kind of work cycles we need to have in these days, to be able to bring those people in, to be able to say, yes, yes, we do have an office. We are located in Ottawa. And yes, you do have to be in the office a few days, because we have one. We should be there. And people need to see us. Yeah. And I think that whole idea to make sure workloads are not overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, the burnout, especially for administrators at Indigenous orgs. I worked on the uh, report that Canada Council did a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And we talked to over 300 artists right across Canada, and some of them were administrators. And I would say 9 out of 10 of these administrators basically said, well, I was the last artist standing. Like I still had funding. Everybody else's funding ran out. So I ended up taking over the admin. And sometimes they never get away for the rest of their career. They're like stuck in admin. There was only one young woman, and she must have been in her 20s, who said, no, I've always wanted to be an arts administrator. I'm like, really? Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us, we just we were the last one standing.
Yeah.
So learning as we go. Like, where did you learn about that? You know, how did you figure out, like, what to do?
Hmm. Well, and that's interesting because when I started my career is like 30 years ago, I I was working at Plugin. So Plugin is the artist. Well, now they're an ICA, but they were an artist run center at the time, and it was I was working with a bunch of guys that were doing computer programming. And I saw this ad for Plugin, and they wanted to take all of their publications and at the time put them on CD-ROMs. Like that was the big deal back in the day. And so I asked these guys I'm working with, and I said, can we do this? And they went, yeah. So I applied for the job and I got it. And Kathleen Darby was there, and Kathleen is still working in arts admin, and she's on the West Coast. And Wayne Bearwalt was the curator and director at the time. And I remember being in there and going, I did not know this world existed. This world of artists that come in and put up shows, and people show up, and we have parties and we talk about art. And it was so much fun. And right next door was Ace Art. And at Ace Art, it was Jennifer Woodbury and Louis Ogama. Louis Ogama was the intern at Ace Art. Deb Prince was doing the Aboriginal Arts training program at 181 Higgins. And that training program was how to be an artist, like your CV, your bio, how you submit a proposal, how to get images like of your work. And so they were hanging out and they came to an Alison Norland opening at Plugin. Alison Norland, she drew in pencil. It was like 12 feet by 6 feet roller coaster. And she had received a grant from Canada Council to travel to major roller coasters across the country. And I went, oh, I want to do that. Not necessarily go on roller coasters, but that idea that your research is paid for. You, as an artist, as a curator, can put together a grant application and tour. And then your work gets exhibited and people come. And then the work tours and then people write about it. Like, that's amazing. That's amazing. At that opening, Lewis and Deb Prince asked if I wanted to join them in starting Urban Shaman.
No way.
And I said, yes. Like, what? Yes, let's do this for contemporary Indigenous artists. How much fun is that going to be? Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I got into arts admin.
Jeez.
And because I had a finance and tech background, it was it was easy to be able to manage a $20,000 budget because that's all the money we got. We only had a $20,000 grant, and we had amazing support. Greg Stats came in for an entire month, and he did workshops with the youth in the community. We partnered with Floating Gallery, which is now a platform, and used their dark rooms, like hand process photographs for an exhibition. Plus, we were the very first to have Native Love, and that was like Scawanati and Ryan Rice, and like everybody back in the day really supported Urban Shaman. Those artists and curators stepped up. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And of course, Urban Shaman's still around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It does some incredible work over there.
Yeah. And they have much more than $20,000 now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I just fell into a job. I got funded to be at NEPA, Native Indian Inuit
Wow.
Association.
Yes.
And I wanted to learn how to do video. But when I was brought in, it was to organize Video Binge. We called it Video Binge. And then we had a Video Binge too. And so I'm organizing all these video workshops for people how to do videos, thinking that I would go take those workshops during the conference. And then we had screenings and all that kind of stuff. And but by the time the conference happened, I'm in the kitchen, trying, keeping everything going. And then after that, there was a job at First Nations Technical Institute to manage their Aboriginal media program, which was a diploma program that we had an agreement with Loyalist. And so I went from that to FNTI. So still admin. And then after that, I started ICMI. And again, admin. Here I am 30 years later.
Yes.
Still wanting to take that video workshop.
But it is interesting because I have been in arts admin, and I've been very fortunate, like living in Winnipeg, that not all of my work was Indigenous based. I was really lucky to be able to, and again, thanks to Kathleen Darby, to step into Groundswell, which is a new music ensemble group. And from Groundswell, I was able to get hired by Music Baroque, which was like a Baroque music series over the course of a year, and to be able to manage that. And I have to say, that was the best board of directors I have ever worked with, ever. They, not necessarily a working board, but wow, did they ever fundraise? They were so engaged in fundraising, and we had a gala every year, and literally they did 99% of the work for that gala. They showed up, they sold tickets, they were amazing. And anybody who gets any one of those on their board, it would be so fortunate. Yeah. Because that's something that people don't necessarily talk about when you come into arts, is that you report to a board of directors.
Yes, you do. Oh, yes.
Right? Yes. Right now, I have an amazing, hardworking board of directors at the Indigenous Curatorial Collective, and literally from around the world. Like, we have curators that are on our board that are, from Circumpolar, but they're currently working in Berlin, from California, from New Mexico, from New Zealand, and then, of course, across the country. And those perspectives, because they're so international, those perspectives of the curatorial work that's happening, the artists that are coming up, and of course, the successful artists that continue to tour, it's such a learning experience when you have such a amazing board of directors. Yeah, I I love them.
Yeah.
Because there's been some bad ones.
I had one or two of those, like board members, not the entire board, but board members. And I'm really fortunate
Mhm.
in that um, the good ones I've managed to keep hold of. So they're like, oh, so what's the term of my board being on the board? And I'm like, and the other thing that I know a lot of people have challenges with is there's the board, but then there's also the membership. And sometimes, you run into situations where the membership um, can actually count coup on the board. And next thing you know, you got a whole new board and a whole new direction and a whole new. Um, but when I was starting up ICMI, the guys I was starting with were from Six Nations. There was a couple from Six Nations, one guy from Moosonee, one guy from Toronto. But the guys from Six Nations, they said, so we looked it up and they'd done all this research. I mean, all I had to do is, assemble. They had done all this stuff. And they said, so we can make our board of directors the membership under our
Yes.
constitution. So that way, when we have an AGM, we don't have members showing up and one guy from Moosonee goes, yeah, no more joiners. I wish I remembered that, no more joiners. So I've been really fortunate. And once in a while, you get one who's, oh my God, what are you doing? But that's not good. But it's been balanced with these other people and some who have been around, like one board member, she's been with me since the beginning. And,
Mhm.
you know, um, so they've been able to say, no, we have corporate hit memory. We know what this is, and we're going to do this. And those ones who make a lot of trouble often don't last, or they don't stay very long.
No, I think and I think those, um, instigators, just do it everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
we kinda know who they are, and, and I think that's part of our own little whisper network as arts administrators.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Yeah.
Oh, they're what? Oh, no, they can.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And we need that. We need that. I mean, um, the the network, I think, um, for administrators. I mean, we've talked. That was something else that came out of that Canada Council, where they, were please. We need training for arts administrators, Indigenous arts administrators. We need a network. We need, a forum. We need a place where we can all go. And I'm not sure. Like, I know you do a lot of work in that area, but I haven't. Like, I'm just sort of over here in Ottawa, la la la, you know, doing this, doing that, at first, I was in Hamilton. No, I was in Six Nations, and then in Hamilton. Then I went to Moose Factory, and then I ended up here. And so I'm just kind of wandering around, still project based, just kind of hoping for that grant.
So outside of our Indigenous sector, I mean, there are businesses where you can bring somebody in for 6 months during a transition. You just call up the company and send them everything you need, and they'll send you people. It could be a fundraiser, it could be a director, it could be like an interim artistic director. And those, you pay heavily for those fees, but then that person doesn't need to be trained. They don't need, babysitting or guidance. And that's what you're paying for. And that's another thing about the organizations is that you need to pay for the expertise that you're bringing in to manage if you're a theater, for performances. That's a lot of people. like in each performance, and artist and wardrobe and set design. It's a lot of work as a general manager to be able to manage all of that. And so you have to pay for those skills. And so these businesses that are set up, I mean, maybe it's something that we need to set up when we think about retirement. So I could have a consulting business, and I have a list of people that can go into your organization and help you through something for a period of time, whether it be you've lost your director or the director left, or whatever that reason was, and you just need somebody in there to do final reports, get your budget up, do your CADAC. But we need those people. We need those people.
Yeah.
We need that skill and expertise to be able to come in. But we also, I really believe we just need to get together and have some food and have a conversation and not have to produce a policy or an outcome or another project, or I don't want to call it a bitch session, but just something where everybody just comes together and we have these conversations and we find those people in the sector that we think would be really great directors, artistic directors, general managers, bring them into the fold just so they get to hang out with us and go, oh, okay, I see what you do. These are my transferable skills. I don't think within the arts and as an operating client, if you're, have finance and commerce, great. But CADAC is not like that. And it's about how are we developing our skills in CADAC for our incoming administrators. We can send them all the videos we want. That's great. But I think we still need to have those easy conversations over food, explaining what it's like to be in the arts, having your grant writing schedule in place, how you develop your grant writing schedule, and then your report process. Like that, those are the key steps in being able to have and manage an organization within the arts sector, are those specific skills. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where are they? and we just need to get together and have some food. And the ICCA is having we have gatherings, but it's a biennial gathering. And we're going back to that model. Previously, I get it. It was a lot of work to produce one. It's a lot of work to produce a gathering or a conference or anything like that. And so much labor that's unseen goes into it. But our gathering is happening, and we've partnered with the Remy in Saskatoon and the Mackenzie in Regina. So we're starting at Saskatoon on November. Oh, I should remember these dates, right? The 12th. People arrive on Wednesday, the 12th, and Paved, which is an artist-run media center in Saskatoon, is hosting us the first night with an opening reception. And they will have an Indigenous program in place. And we're just really grateful to David LaRiviere at Paved to host us for that night. And we have curators coming in from New Zealand, from California, New Mexico. It's going to be so much fun and so amazing. And then the major exhibitions that are opening at the Remy on Thursday night. And then Friday, we're going to get on a bus and we're going to play bus bingo. Oh my God, I didn't know there was such a thing, but there is. And so we're going to do bus bingo. And then we're at the Mackenzie for 2 days for the opening there. And we also have a series of panels that we're presenting, and artists that we've worked with in the past year will be presenting the work that they've done in the past year. So we're really excited about that.
That's
And then
awesome.
in 2027, we're back up in Whitehorse,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
it'll be in August. Yeah. And it's all about critical discourse. Because again, it's something that's missing in our Indigenous art sector is writing. We need more artists written about. Absolutely, we love Kent Monkman,
Oh, yeah.
but we have other artists that you can write about too.
Yeah.
And with the closing of Galleries West, which was, a major art publication, and then of course Canadian art shut down. So, we're left with Border Crossings, the Inuit Art Quarterly, and C Magazine. That's what we have left. And I mean, we are looking at our publications. We do have a whole series of new essays that are online now. We're looking at archives. I don't know who has the NEPA archive.
I wonder. There's Yvonne Miracle.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in years.
I don't even know where she is now. When she left, she went to the Friendship Center, but that was like in, wow, 95.
Well, and I know that Rianne Chartrand did a major exhibition of the NEPA history, but I don't recall. I'm going to follow up with Rianne.
That would be amazing because they had that. They wanted to do a book, like a coffee table book. What's it called? Of the art, all the art exhibits. Um, I mean, Jeff Thomas was there. Um,
Yeah.
there was their board was incredible. Like I didn't know anybody when I went in there, but then finding out who these incredible photographers were. Steve Loft was working there at the time, starting with video and doing different video projects and whatnot. There's a couple of other guys there too. Um, so I don't even know, but that
Hmm.
would be really cool. What was it called? In Our Voices or something like that.
The book?
Yeah, In Our Voices, something
Did
like that.
did they do it?
Well, they never. I don't think they ever got the book done because they couldn't seem to get it published. Like they didn't want to publish this Indigenous art. Like it was in the early '90s, so it wasn't even a thing. I remember talking to Peter or David Poole at Canada Council.
I love David Poole.
Isn't he great? He went to
He's
City of Ottawa.
amazing.
He's moved to Pembroke now, but
Mm.
he said we all went to Ottawa. Yvonne and Lewis. What was his name? Sean Lewis, I think. Henry.
Oh, Sean Henry.
Sean Henry. Yeah, Sean Henry.
Yes.
But there was another guy too. I can't remember his name.
Richard Jikite.
I don't remember him. But there was another guy from Six Nations, something Lewis. Anyway,
Mm.
and I and Yvonne, we all came to Ottawa and we did the whole, we did Canada Council, we did Heritage, hello, we're here. And there's Indigenous photography does exist. And it was right around the time things were kind of starting to change up. Um, David Poole said it really blew him away. He didn't realize that there was this whole sector of Indigenous photographers and you know, video makers. And and around that time, they were also looking at the Aboriginal media program with Ian. Remember Ian?
Ian Reid.
Ian
Yes.
Reid, yeah, Ian Reid. I loved Ian. He was great.
And he recently retired too.
Yeah, he did. But to see that kind of that growth at that time. But we couldn't. They tried in so many ways to get that book published, but
Mm.
and it was through our eyes. Through Our Eyes.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was called, Through Our Eyes. And it was an exhibit, and there was all kinds of different artists' work included in that. And that's when they were on James Street.
Well, I think we need more. We need an actual publication with each major exhibition, like to accompany the exhibition. I'm so happy Radical Stitch has a publication with that work. And then, of course, the work of the National Art Gallery with the Sakafan and the other one. But still, it's all of the other artists still need that profile. They still need those essays written about them. They still need to get published into our left magazines. I mean, Inuit art, is very specific, but Border Crossings and C Magazine, the ICCA, we have a partnership with C Magazine, and we support 3 Indigenous writers, and they write about an exhibition wherever they're from, whatever exhibition that they want, they write about that. And again, it gives them that magazine credit, it gives the artist that exposure, and of course the gallery as well, because now the gallery's been able to have an essay done that is for a magazine that gets distributed. It's so important.
Yeah. To have something regular, not just these special editions every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
5 years to put together. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we'll be doing for the one on Whitehorse. It's all about critical discourse, and knock on wood, we'll hopefully have the SCANA archives.
Wow.
By then, yeah. So, I'm really interested to find out how we can get NEPA. That would be great. And Tribe, I know Laurie Blondeau is doing the archive for Tribe and putting all of that together. So, I mean, she's doing that. We'll probably, of course, try to negotiate a link because that history is so important. NEPA history is so important.
We were the first Indigenous organization to receive core funding in Canada.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And now we have our own department within Canada Council.
It's come a long way.
And that took 30 plus years. But what's not out is there's one of the statements, I don't know what page it's on, but in the actual creation of Canada Council, it says something about Indians and craft. Yeah. They haven't, yes, they haven't removed that.
Really? Oh my God. Because we're not fundable because what we do isn't art. And plus, they didn't want to encourage us to create art. We were going to be extinct anyway. So don't encourage them to do that. So,
and the whole Canada Council, I mean, we have a lot of artists that are self-taught and artists that don't necessarily know how to talk about their art. So they're not eligible for Canada Council funding, but they do need to be applying to the municipal level, at least to get started, to get that information together, to be able to submit a grant and manage a grant and report on the grant. And they need to start coming out. Like, I mean, again, this goes to arts admin, why we need to have a governance of compassion is our work is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We need to go to those openings, not just at Indigenous artist run centers or theater or dance performances, but the whole gamut. We need to be within the arts and cultural sector so we know what's going on. How are they working? Who are they working with? Like, who are some of the people? That production looks great. How do we do a production like that? How do we do a performance? How do we do a series, a concert series? All of that information, I think, is really important. And like this week, it's every night I have to do something within the arts. And that's great. I get to see people, I get to network. Like always have to be seen if you want to get support letters or, you know, opportunity for access for something. Do I need a space? Do I need, somebody else to help me with something? But that's again part of the job is to go to these openings, to go to those artist talks, to go to those book launches.
And it normalizes Indigenous arts when they see you and then
Yes.
speak so eloquently about the arts and about the artists, and they, it starts to normalize it within society that the woman
Hmm.
artists also exists. Oh,
Yes. So good.
I don't know how you do it every night though. I could not. Nope. I need a
No.
nap.
This is just a really busy week. Yeah. And I'm, a huge supporter of Manitoba Opera and, get my season tickets and bring people in. And I'm a regular donor to the opera. And for me, opera it's just storytelling. Uh, uh, we tell stories all the time. And, there's a great love, there's a great death, there's a great reconciliation. These are all stories that are relatable, and it's just done in music with an amazing symphony orchestra.
Wow. Yeah.
Hmm. So, and I think that's part of not just who I am, but my arts landscape here in Winnipeg. And when I'm in Ottawa every other month, and when I'm in Ottawa, I'm at those other events. I'm at those openings, those artist talks, the visiting artists that come in, because I think that's important too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Hmm.
Motivating.
Yes. And what is it, the NAC, the National Arts Center? They have a great Indigenous ticket program. I don't know if it's just for Indigenous theater or if it's for all theater that happens there, but
I don't know either because I'm only
yeah,
most Indigenous. I think I'm pretty sure it's for every.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity to, explore theater. Then you see what you like. Oh, I don't like, 1980s plays. I don't mind the, newer plays. I love the old ones. Yeah. The costumes, the music, mhm. And then hopefully it gets you to Gladstone. It gets you to, the smaller theaters that have the really great playwrights coming up, and you get to see those before they make it to the big stages. Yeah. I would love to go see um, Grease, the Indigenous Grease that's on Broadway right now.
It did go to Broad. That's right. They
Well,
said I saw
yeah.
it. I saw it at the National Arts Center, and it's amazing. It is.
What?
Oh wow, it was fantastic. And I remember them saying right at the end, "Yes, we're going to make it to Broadway." But
And
that
they're
was.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can imagine it would be a much bigger production.
I just see them on Facebook. I am still on Facebook. I'm of that age.
Sounds like no, well, in the Indigenous community, that's where you go. You go to Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. Yeah, if I want to know what my cousins are doing, I go to Facebook. Creep them all on Facebook. I don't post
Mhm.
anything. I just look to see what other people are doing.
Well, no, I've been watching they're, showing little snippets of the production in New York. So I've been watching and it looks so fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I went with my son. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. They had a great selection of stuff this year.
Hmm.
I'd like to check out more of it.
Hmm.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I love talking to you. I was trying to think, when did we meet? Was it like at an IMA conference in Kelowna, maybe? When it was the first apology from, the prime minister at the time, I don't want to say his name. Um,
I think it was before that. Like I'm thinking
wow.
the 90s sometime,
Hmm.
maybe at a NEPA thing.
Oh, could have been a NEPA thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe at I know the Hamilton Art Gallery had some stuff for there. Like,
Yes.
you know,
And then we had the big Sheila Cops brought us all together. I loved that event. I met
oh,
so many people.
I
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So we're all laughing about Sheila Copps bringing us together because we didn't expect that from her.
Yeah.
And then there was a bunch of Toronto stuff, like the Imaginative when it first started.
Yes. Yeah.
Toronto, yeah.
We have a really amazing Indigenous artist cultural history.
They do.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been so incredible to see them. I mean, I remember, I don't think the hotel is even there anymore. It was on Bloor Street, and the first one was just 20 artists in a hotel room, like not a hotel room, but just a little
Hmm.
room, and that was it. And I had my son with me, and he was like a year old, something like that. He was kind of the mascot because he was the only baby there. And now to see what it with their own theater and like, oh, it's fantastic. It's just
Yeah.
fantastic to
Well,
see.
ICCA, we're 20 years old now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Urban's in the 30s. Daphne's new. Otsutsuman is new. So in the last 5, 6 years. So that's amazing. That's so great. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll keep up the
Hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been so great. Thank
yeah.
you so much for inviting me.
Oh, Kachimik, I love chatting with you too. And this has been another great conversation. And I'm so glad you're going to be in Ottawa. Like,
Yes,
it's going to be great. Oh, man.
I
That'll be
know.
so I'll be hitting you up for, okay, what's good? What can we
Yep.
see?
Let's go.
Yeah. Maybe once a week
Yeah.
on a slow day. When I
Sounds
run fast.
perfect. Mm,
Yeah, excellent.
okay.
Well, Kachimik, thank you so much.
Thank you.